Canada's rental market is red hot, and some in the industry say it's likely only going to keep heating up from here. Our next guest believes prices for a one-bedroom condo could easily reach $3,000 in the next 7 years. For more on this, Steve Saretsky is a Vancouver realtor at Oakwyn Realty, and he joins us now. Steve, thanks so much for making time today.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on.
So the rental market, it did cool down a bit during the pandemic, but when you look at prices from the low that they hit in 2021, they've just been climbing since then. So the latest rentals.ca data was showing a $1,670 for the average price as the low in 2021. Now it's above 2,000. What is driving the run up in rental prices right now?
I think that, during the pandemic, we saw household formation, people obviously leaving studio apartments, moving back in at home, that sort of thing. So household formation sort of fell off. As the economy's reopened, you've seen a lot of people moving back out. The economy, the labor market's obviously strong. So people have been going out and absorbing new rentals, obviously immigration, 1 million people into this country last year in 2022. And so, we just haven't been able to build enough housing to get house, rents to moderate. And so I think that there is still upwards pressure on rents as we speak.
Yeah, it's a challenging situation, too, because the alternative when, you're looking at these high rents is buying a house with high mortgage costs right now that, really makes things out of reach for people in terms of affordability as well. How much demand are you seeing from people who would, otherwise be interested in perhaps buying a home, but are sticking with renting right now, even if it is more costly just because of the mortgage rate situation?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of volatility over the last 12 months, right? Like interest rates going up 400 basis points in less than a year. So a lot of people, we've certainly had quite a few clients that basically, opted to sell, go into the rental market and see how things were going to shape up over the next sort of year. There's just a lot of uncertainty. And so people, we've seen a lot of people basically delaying those decisions, assuming that, hey, rates are going to go up a lot. We should see house prices naturally correct. So let's go and rent as a sort of a stopgap. And so there's just been a lot of pressures, I think, on the rental housing market when you add up what's happening in the mortgage market plus immigration. It is a bit of a mess.
What do you think this will mean for some of these urban centers where prices for both rentals and, buying real estate are so elevated? You're in one of them in Vancouver. I'm in one of the others in Toronto. Does that end up, I know it's a narrative that we've heard many times over the years, but does it end up deterring people who would otherwise be attracted to what these, cities in this country have to offer in terms of career opportunities and whatnot, if the price of living here is just too high?
Oh, yeah. I think it's a huge problem. Don't get me wrong, as someone that's in the industry, I think it's naive to suggest it's not an issue that, assuming we have perpetual growth in this market without wages keeping pace and the cost of living sort of easing up here, I think we are going to have a real issue attracting people for the longer term. So I think it's a real concern. I know there's a lot of op-eds that have been taken, a lot of economists coming out, big bank economists. You had Rosenberg talking about it last week about, I think, a healthy debate potentially warranted just around the levels of immigration in this country, because the reality is we don't have the ability to add on a housing supply. And right now what we're actually seeing, you look at CMHC housing starts, they're actually rolling over. So they're not picking up. So we just had 1 million people come into this country last year, and housing starts are rolling over because the cost of financing new development has doubled essentially in the pace of 12 months. So it's hard to envision a scenario where things improve materially on the housing front in the next couple of years.
What is the development like, in terms of progress in the Vancouver area where you are, Steve, when it comes to rental apartments?
We're trying. I think that the math is really hard. I think that the cost of land is so expensive. Obviously, we have rent controls here, so it doesn't necessarily incentivize a lot of capital into the space. CMHC has done a really great program with their CMHC Select rental program, incentivizing very attractive financing to build purpose-built rentals. So we do have a lot of those under construction. I don't think enough to to really alleviate the upwards pressure on rents. But I think it's a program that's helping. But I think this is a very challenging, difficult situation. It's not going to be resolved in a couple of years, and all levels of government need to come together to figure this out. And so I think it's a decade-long issue that's going to take time to play out.
And seeing as you're, on the ground there, Steve, I'm curious what people are looking for these days. I mean, probably a good price, but also, in terms of the space that people are wanting, because, in cities like Toronto, also Ottawa, there's still a lot of working from home happening, and that could or would require some extra space in your house to be able to do that comfortably, at least. Is that still, a driving demand that you hear from people?
Oh, yeah, 100%. So what we're seeing right now, basically, is we're still seeing some softness for, like, say, a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Vancouver. Those would typically be occupied by young families because, the commute to work is so convenient. And as people are now working more and more from home, we are seeing people, those would-be buyers are still a little bit weak, and they're actually looking for that third bedroom, the home office. And so they're moving out to the suburbs still. So we're still seeing huge pressure on the 3-bedroom entry-level segment because everybody really needs that third bedroom. And I think the reality is what we have been building over the last 5 to 10 years hasn't been a lot of 3-bedroom product. It's been a lot of 1-bedroom, junior 2 bedrooms for the investor. So these haven't been family-oriented construction. And so I think there is a huge undersupply of 3-bedroom homes.
Do you think that could change, Steve?
I think that municipal governments are trying to encourage that. So I think we're slowly getting there. We had the BC government come out a couple of weeks ago saying they're going to do blanket rezoning and override municipal governments across the province to allow multifamily duplex, triplexes on all single-family lots. So I think there's progress being made. But like I said, this isn't going to get fixed overnight.